Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to the episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. And one thing I love about doing this show is I get to see some absolutely fantastic projects. Not once, but sometimes twice or thrice. If that's even a word, it is a word. It's an English word. I know this. With that in mind, we have a returning guest, the fabulous, ultra talented, super patient. It is Trevor Fernandes-Lenkiewicz. Trevor, how's it going, sir?
I'm well, brother. I look forward to cheersing you in person at Thought Bubble, but equally happy to be here right now chatting with you.
Perfect. Excellent. Thought Bubble, it is at the time of recording less than a week away. Packed?
Not even remotely, no.
I suppose it's different for me because it's like only about an hour away, so I was like, I can just pack the car and I'm gone.
Oh man. It's the flight up. It's gonna be an adventure. I think I leave the east coast of the States around 6 p.m. and I'll be in Yorkshire by about 8:30 in the morning the next day.
Wow. That's, of course, it's what is it, like an 8-hour flight and then you add the hours on? Is that how it works?
Yeah, and then I have a layover in Dublin, and I'll be there for about an
God.
hour and a half, and then I go from Dublin to Leeds.
Right, okay. So, when you're in Leeds, a couple of things not to say. Do not say up the borough.
What is that?
So, I come from a town called Middlesbrough. Well, I live in a town called Middlesbrough. And Middlesbrough's soccer team and Leeds soccer team don't like each other very much.
Oh,
So you can't. It's like saying fins up, to a
gotcha.
fan, right? So don't be giving it up the borough. And definitely don't say dirty Leeds.
Okay.
And that's a reference to Leeds in the 70s being a really physical soccer team. Like how the Eagles are currently and not getting flagged for stuff.
It's like the bad boy Pistons in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, that's exactly it. So don't say that. Although the one thing that my wife knows about soccer is that every time Leeds are on the telly, she looks up and goes, dirty Leeds. So,
I'll make sure to not repeat what your wife said.
Yeah, don't say that. Whatever. All right, enough football and dissing the dirty Leeds. I can get away with that, I suppose. We're here to talk about a new project, right?
Yeah, super stoked.
Super stoked. Tell us about this new project you've got going on, Trevor.
Yeah, so it's I'm doing the thing that I said I was not interested in doing for the longest time, and that's a superhero comic. But it's not your daddy's superhero comic, okay? What we're looking to the short and sweet of this story is what would happen if Superman had to feel good to do good, and this is ultimately our attempt to explore the male ego through the lens of the perfect man or Superman, and so it's kind of an examination of masculinity in the modern day and the ways in which, the male ego is very much contingent upon our ability to perform for other people. And what does that do to the sort of psychology and the emotionality of a man, especially a man of such power and such stature, and further, whose ability to perform is contingent upon the way he feels because his powers are corollary to the amount of dopamine in his bloodstream. So if this man doesn't feel good, he can't do good. And so there are sort of these conflicting elements, right, to the way we're dealing with masculinity, because his ability to perform is contingent upon is going to define his perception of himself, his masculinity, so on and so forth. But if he can't perform because he's not feeling good, what type of self-detrimental cycle does that create for this character? And what types of behaviors are going to be gratified by essentially the ability for him to become a god, right?
Right. So, you don't like picking small stories, do you?
Well, you know what, man? I think that this story is kind of a small story wrapped in a big story. You know,
Mm,
I think the most impactful part of the story is just about a man figuring out how to be the best version of himself. And we're kind of injecting that into something larger. But
mm,
today I am, you know, not to say that there isn't going to be a lot of cool sort of trappings of the superhero genre, but I kind of wrapped like a really personal drama inside of a larger superhero book.
mm. So you've said the P word, perform. When we
Mm.
talk about perform, certain people that comes with a certain connotation. So
Yeah.
when we say perform, what do we mean in the book?
Um,
Perform good deeds, perform his powers.
everything. I mean, you know, I think you're told from a young age, right, that you as a man need to be able to do things for other people. You need to be
Okay.
strong, you need to be a warrior, you need to
Hmm.
be a teacher, you need to be angry and combative, you know,
Hmm.
for depending on where you come from.
Yeah.
You also need to be loving and gentle, and the idea that you need to do all those things for other people, right? Like
Right.
it's
Right.
performative. The male ego
Oh,
is
okay.
performative, and there's also the element that we're alluding to is that more often than not, like the way a man feels about their masculinity can very much be swayed by their sexual habits, right? Their
Right.
sex life. And so that is also an element of this story.
Okay.
It's kind of all of the above. I hate to give like the most
Mhm.
fence sitting answer, but all of those things really do play a role in this character's psychology.
It's interesting because I talk a lot in my day job. I talk a lot about men's mental health,
Mm,
and I talk about how a certain age group of men don't know how to express themselves
yes.
because when they were kids, the, they were told by the dads at the time, the fathers at the time, that men don't cry, men don't get upset, men, stiff up a lip, take it on the chin,
Mhm.
laugh when the world laughs with you, cry, I'll give you something to cry about. All
Mm,
that sort of kind of, um, I suppose, history building up over cycle of men have
mm.
left a whole group of people, a whole group of men, not being able to talk about their mental health
Yep.
and not having the foresight to understand that it's okay to have a bad day. It's
Yeah.
okay to wake up feeling a bit meh, yeah. But
Yeah.
then your book kind of takes that and says, well, hold on, it's okay feeling a bit meh, but what are the ramifications of that for a superhero, right?
Right, and also, you know, how damning will the acknowledgement of all the things you just mentioned be, right? Like
Mm,
he's gonna sit there and acknowledge the fact that
mm,
he isn't fulfilling this role
mm,
that only he can fulfill, and you know, this story also kind of leans into the obligation, right? The
mm.
we talked about, you know, the male ego being contingent upon our ability to do things for others, to perform for others, but what happens, you know, when you are obliged, uh, apropos of the with great power comes great responsibility mentality, right?
I was going to bring him up.
Yeah, and so that can be quite damning. And more often than not, I think this is the case with everybody, male, man, woman, whatever,
Mhm,
is that you can become your own worst enemy, and
mhm.
that very much is going to be the case for this character as he goes through his journey.
So Peter Parker. Well, I'm going to use a couple of classic heroes to kind of talk
Sure.
about this. So Peter Parker is pretty much at the start of the book, and even after he gets his spider powers, even after Uncle Ben, he's a
Mhm.
bit self-centered. He's a bit all
Mhm.
about me. That's he takes photos of himself in his PJs for Christ's sakes. He's all about it. He does it for money. If only you could see the websites now. Anyway, um, it takes Uncle Ben's death, spoiler alert, to get him to do the right thing. I read when I used to read Spider-Man. I don't see Peter Parker's happiness being linked to his powers. Same
Mm.
with Batman. I never see Batman coming into the Batcave after a night on patrol thinking, "Job done,"
Mhm.
because he just doesn't, does he? He's like, oh,
Mm.
he's all grim and dark. How how can you kind of if there's a persistency to the things that you're trying to fight, and they are still there over a period of time, surely that in itself is going to weigh down on your character's sense of, am I doing well? Am I not doing well? Affecting his mood. So it's like a vicious circle that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of going around, right?
Yeah, and it speaks to a lot of what we are talking about before with the sort of the generational misinterpretation, I think, of what a man should be or can be. You know, the idea that like for generations, I think we were told that we were told things that put us in a position where we couldn't express ourselves, and therefore you have generations of men who grow up who upon feeling negative emotions will either explode and
Mm,
result in complete and utter self-destruction or the destruction of everybody around them,
mm,
or they just fall into a pit, and this is really about this character learning to break a cycle, and
mm,
some of this cycle is self-imposed, and it his ability to find his way out of it and determine his own trajectory outside of that is going to kind of be the deciding factor in whether or not this life that he is building for himself is one that's going to be worth living.
mm. I'm intrigued further because I mean, there are there are ways to feel good about yourself,
Hmm.
and there's ways to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
um, things like I'll go there. Drugs and alcohol,
Hmm.
sex, all
Yeah.
those things can make a person feel good.
Hmm.
If you have too much drink, it's a depressant, not an antidepressant. Alcohol, so I'm sure that's kind of an ass kicking waiting for your hero down the line at
Yeah.
some point. Because I imagine, not I don't want to give the game away, but I imagine if he takes something that's illicit and therefore feels really good about himself for ages, because hey, look at me, he gives all that great stuff,
Mm.
but then the come down will be huge, right? It'll be
Right.
catastrophic in
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, exactly. And like to speak to that point, I mean, there's implication of sex and drugs on page one,
Well,
like,
funny enough, you should say that. I have a couple of pages here to show. This is um, mature, so if you're offended by nudity, look away. Maybe not on this panel, but coming up soon.
mm,
That's what she said. All right. Here we go. This is our pseudo Clark meeting his pseudo Lois.
mhm.
I like how you've gone for red and purple. Not that you're trying to, don't let DCs find out for Christ's sakes, will you?
I had to draw the eyes somehow.
Yeah, somehow. Superhero books. I like how you've kind of like got a superhero idea and then kind of turned it around to give us something completely different. Why Superman? Why did you? Oh, not Superman. Why such a powerful man that he could? He's faster than a certain bullet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really found myself wanting to tell a story about masculinity, and for me, I'm a theme-driven writer first, and what that does is theme informs character, and character will inform everything else. And
Mm,
I could not think of a better way to handle this than dealing with a sort of modern day uh, Olympic champion, like
oh,
an
okay.
Adonis, the man with the potential to do any and everything, um, and yet is weighed down by his own predisposition, right?
Mm,
And maybe that predisposition is given to him. Maybe he contributes to that. Maybe it's both. Um, but frankly, I mean, I've said on interviews for years, like I had absolutely no interest in doing independent capes because more often than not, um, they come off as knockoffs,
yeah.
of things that already exist. They're less good versions of things that have uh, uh, an unbeatable amount of legacy and iconicity. But what I could do was find my way in to that genre, and I think myself and the team have really begun to chart a course to do a superhero book that is different, but it is not different with the intention of being shocking or contrarian or just like making people watch superheroes do things that
Mm,
superheroes shouldn't do, right? This is
mm,
still a loving embrace of that genre and everything it means, but we are using it as a lens to really tell something different. And when I decided that I wanted to tell a story about masculinity and the male ego, what better way to filter that through than the Superman, right? Especially if I'm doing it in comics.
Yeah, that's true. Good call. It just makes sense. Absolutely, there's a logical path through that. Let me ask you this then, because there's no skirting around the issue. So we're just going to go straight for it and see if this goes well. Masculinity, or the idea of masculinity, has changed over the last few years massively. People are going through various challenges in their life. The whole LGBTQ plus community has their idea of what's what, and other people have their ideas of what's what, and so on. In today's world, where things aren't as black and white as man, woman, how hard was it to kind of drill down to that key aspect that makes men and women love them?
I mean, it was really just trying to filter in some of my experiences, whether it was personal or it was or whether it is things that I witnessed from other people. Like I think about I said this a couple times on the press circuit for this book, but COVID took a lot of things from a lot of people, but and we've talked about on this show how it took away a job opportunity from me, but really I think it took away the opportunity for me to be like a young dumb man, to make mistakes. And I think about now, I wake up 2.5 years later and I have a company and I have a reputation and I have things that well, if I were to make those same mistakes that I could have made now almost 4 years ago, parts of my life would come crumbling down, and so I look at that, and you put this man on you take that and you extrapolate that to an entirely different level, where you have this character John, who is now a Superman, and he has the platform and the pedestal and the eyes on him, and he cannot make those mistakes, but he's a man. Like he's going to. And so this was
there's a mistake.
there we go. But yeah, so it's ultimately sort of an expression of that anxiety, and every story I've written is me sort of working through, I think, a complicated problem or a question in my head, and Rise is no different.
As a personal story, then, when we think about who we are and how we are, is Rise as much a statement of how the world views men as an ego machine or an id machine? Is it kind of, because in my head, and I always get slated for this, in my head, equality means people are equal, right? Equality to me is not pushing one aspect and pushing the other one down. That's not equality. Even if you turn around and say, well, it's been like that for years, so all we're doing is redressing the balance. No, past is past, gone is gone. There's nothing to do about that. What we can do is move forward, and moving forward, that's equality.
Right.
Not that. Everyone equal. So the book, in my head, kind of represents, as much as it is for that personal journey for John to deal with his powers, how he stays happy, and how he can try to find the ability to be the hero without that supplementary, I suppose, support. It's also a little bit about where do we fit? Where do men fit? Where do certain men of a certain age and type fit in today's modern world? And I think that's a really brave idea to try and challenge, especially when we have so many other pressures coming on. And those pressures can be great pressures. They absolutely are. People should learn to accept the world as it is. But still, if I turn around and say things like, I miss Black Canary wearing fishnets, I get called a misogynist. I mean, I've been married for 15 years. I have a happy marriage and everything. There's not a misogynist born in my body. And yet I happen to like canary and fishnets, and people go batshit crazy when I say it. So how were you aware of how you might come across with that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a little bit of a concern, and all I can do is sort of approach the themes of this book with a level of honesty, you know,
Good
and just
call.
say like, this isn't this isn't my war on toxic men, this or on men in general.
Uh-huh.
This also isn't like my hyper. Uh, this isn't like me trying to sit here and excuse every shitty thing that men ever do. This is me sort of exploring why men might be the way they are,
Mm-hmm.
and about a character who recognizes that and who experiences manhood and masculinity on the highest level possible, and
Yeah.
working through that for himself. Um, I'm not here to give anybody an answer. I'm not here to, you know, I'm not here to point fingers, because I, in my mind, you know, at the ripe old age of 26, I think a man can be sort of the best of sort of both sides, right? Like you have a side that is
Uh-huh.
sort of about men being like this stoic protector, and then you
Mm.
have the idea of a man being kind of soft and subservient. And I think that, like, in my mind, a good man is somebody that is strong and is fierce and is willing to stand up and protect, but is also powerful enough of self and of um, will, and enough to have the restraint, and know when to exact it, right? And know when to be kind, and know when to be
Mm-hmm.
a teacher. And so, yeah, my hope is that people can recognize that I'm coming at this topic in an earnest way,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm not here to judge anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are ultimately sort of products of our experiences, and um, this story does not hide from that at all.
Mm. It's a, you know what? I love that. I love the honesty element. Absolutely think it's, you know, it isn't about setting a political agenda. It's not about anything other than, as you've explained, how's this person go about his business with these pressures, and how can he generate that level of power for himself without
Mm.
the adulation of other aspects. I really like it. It's cool. Good effort. I
Thanks.
tell you what, it's complicated. All this socio-political stuff is complicated. Thank God we've only got comic books to look at. All right, we're going to take a quick break for one of our other shows, and then we're going to have a look at your Kickstarter when we come back. Where shall we go? I say what, we'll go here. Check this out.
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the All Timers Comic Book Show, only on the UCPN.
I think your mic is off, brother.
There we go. I had double that. We almost had double old timers. I'm not sure I can hack them twice in one go, man. All right, check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show for comics that are a little bit more, some would say past their sell-by date. I would say more long in the tooth. Long in the tooth. There you go. The most recent one is Heroes That Have Been Controlled by Mind-Altering Powers. You'll be surprised there's no Jean Grey in there at all. All right, excellent. Yeah, we went with 3 different heroes. What can I say? I'll tell you after the show. Don't worry. Right, let's have a look at your Kickstarter. You started 1st of November, correct?
Yeah.
We're in pounds because I'm over here. So you asked for $6,000. You have currently, with a month to go, $6,129. You've made it.
I did. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We did. Yeah. This is what? This is your 9th now
My
successful?
eighth.
8th successful? I read that there was 8 before. I didn't know this was the 9th one. How's that? I'm preempting the future. There you go.
I hope so.
How's that make you feel when you go from that's eight successful Kickstarters? That must make you feel absolutely chuffed to bits.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's a privilege, and I mean it's just the start, that's how I look at it. And I've had a really, really fortunate run very early on in my career where I get to make things I care about, and I don't have to be concerned about the way they will sell, because I know that my readership, my audience, they want good stories that they can connect to, and they know that I'm going to do my best to give them and deliver that. And so I fortunately haven't had to really think about the market so much. Like I think almost everything I've done on Kickstarter is stuff that Kickstarter usually does not like. Like um Kickstarter superheroes do not tend to do well on Kickstarter.
No, that's true.
The sci-fi stuff did not tend to do well on Kickstarter, and that was the first thing I ever did. Anthologies don't do well on Kickstarter anymore, and that's all I've done. I get to do stuff that I really care about, and
So if I see a superhero sports star, then that'll be you then, right?
yeah, exactly.
Comes to save the New England Patriots.
That's me. I am Mac Jones' replacement.
Hey, it's not just on him. I'm not done. Yeah, it makes me laugh when I read the Patriots get last year Devontae Parker. Then they gave him like a stupid multi-million-year deal, and now you've signed Mike Gesicki, who I think is really good, but doesn't really suit that offense. But that's just me. What do I know? I'm a Finns fan. We fumble snaps, so what can I say? We can't even get the ball this distance. Never mind 10 yards. This distance.
You're doing better than we are this year.
So. Yeah, cool. What I like is the fact 115 backers. That screams to me that you have an audience that is just they've got your twig, man. You've got your name in the little search engines and whatever. And then as soon as you put something out, it's boof. They're there straight away, or pre-ordering even, which is, I think, a cool thing. And it's still 28 days.
Yeah, we're just a couple days into this thing, and the sky's the limit. I think. I mean, we've got some really, really lovely stretch goals and backer goals to try to incentivize a little bit more support beyond that base number, because that base number is really just enough so that I don't lose money making this thing. So any further profit goes directly into this next book. Cool. Lets us keep chugging along without taking any breaks, and we got some really fun stuff. Like this campaign, we're bringing back the triple page spread, where we have a fold out triple page spread.
Is it that one at the top?
No, it's toward the bottom. So
here we go.
You keep going there's actually, we have a little illustration if you keep going. But let's see. I think it's right below the cover or somewhere near there. Or maybe preview page.
Whoa.
Right there.
That one?
Yeah. So it's a fold out triple page spread, which if we hit $8,000 on this campaign, we will add a second one to the book.
Whoa. Wow. Excellent. Good call. Let's talk pledges. $5 gets you a digital copy. Excellent. And I always say this on any Kickstarter. I think digital copies have to be a must nowadays, especially if you're looking for international viewers, which you are, because you're coming over. You're coming to Thought Bubble, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. I've got my press passes waiting for me as we speak, so I shall be there. Is this your first time over to do cons, or?
This is my first time in the UK to begin with. Yeah.
And you got to dirty Leeds. I like Leeds Bradford Airport. It's dinky. You'll think it's dinky when you get there. It's class.
Listen, I like small airports. Anytime I can, I fly out of a smaller airport. Like shout out to TF Green in Westerly or Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah, there you go. I've looked at that one myself when I'm trying to come over to Boston area. Hopefully next year. We'll see how it goes. So there you go. $5 gets you the digital, which, as I said, I think is the the bee's knees. $12 gets you the premium printed. Ships anywhere in the world. How's that going for you? Because shipping costs are quite. I think that's probably the knock against Kickstarters is the shipping costs.
Yeah, I mean it's I had to learn a lot of lessons. I've lost a lot of money on international shipping, especially because I started my career during COVID, and it seemed like in between every campaign, the prices would rise by the time I gave the quote price and by the time I actually had to fulfill. So all I can do is learn lessons from that. But also, to be honest with you, if somebody in another part of the world wants to read something that I made that badly, and if I lose a little bit of money on shipping, to be honest, to me, it's worth it, right? Because I do this because I love what I do, and I love getting to share stories and connect with people in that way. So I've done my best to try to keep it as economical as possible for the international backer without I don't put up a lot of padding, right? Like I'll make predictions based on what the price is now and sort of what the trend has been, but I don't make any money on the international shipping in the slightest. In fact, I probably more often than not, because I'll go to the sort of bare minimum that I feel like I need, I'll often lose a little bit.
Fair, very honourable, very honourable. I like this one, $22. This gets you the Pocket Watch Press digital library. You have got, we spoke of this about last time, you've got some absolutely fantastic projects, absolutely some great books out there. Area 51, the Helix Project, absolutely, we've talked about that. You sent over which book did you say? I've lost the train of thought. You sent me over a book, which was a one shot, and absolute best out of the Minutes to Midnight stuff. Brilliant again. What is it when you think about the different projects you've been involved in, and people should consider this? For me, you've got 5 backers there for $22 with your back catalogue. This for me is the one I would go for, because the writing is bang on.
Thank you.
The art styles are so different. How is it that you manage to find the right people for the right gig? Do you kind of have like a style in your head of how you want a certain book to look, or is it kind of checking out the digital libraries of artists to see which sort of work fits best?
I mean, it changes. Sometimes I have a very specific idea in my head, and other times that idea just develops more and more as I begin to work on the project and develop it. Ultimately, I try to go into a project with a certain level of vision, because it gives direction and clarity for the project. And I think in the case of something like Rise, this is my this is my 3rd intellectual property, my 8th release. And this is just going into this, like, I think it's probably going to be the most polished thing I've ever made from start to finish. Because over the last 2.5 years, almost 3, I've learned how to polish that vision. I've learned how to figure out what core elements in my head do I need to see through, and how do I surround myself with the people who are able to exact that, and at the same time add their own personal signature to the work to make it special. Because if it was just me, if it was just my vision, I fear that these projects would not feel so different. They would not feel they wouldn't feel so diverse or of a certain variety. So the people I work with play a massive part in that.
It is true you like to challenge your characters. Your characters in any of your books never seem to have an easy ride. What is it about that sense of, I'm thinking kind of Minutes to Midnight as much as anything, what is it, is that sense of challenge, that sense of demise that the characters can face? What is it that makes that element, that kind of, not life or, well, in one book I suppose it is life or death. In fact, you could even argue it's life and death when you think about it. what is it about that kind of conflict that makes your writing so engaging?
I don't know if that's for me to say,
Well, of course
but
it is. I can't say I can't be a PR and talk host as well. It's like, how many
um,
hats do you want me to wear, man? Well, what do you think it is about your writing? And they got to rephrase the question. I feel like I'm in court. I object. All right, I'll rephrase the question. What is it do you think that makes your writing engaging when you deal with so many kind of I was going to say combative, but these kind of situations you put your characters in where there is conflict, and that conflict is either their own personal choice versus what they should do, situations that they find themselves in. What is it that you kind of think? What about that? What about those situations get you kind of like yes, and then get you pounding the keyboard? There you go. That's probably a better way of asking that question.
well, I appreciate the kind words, and honestly, the only thing I can think of is just that it comes from a real organic and curious place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the stories all start as me trying to work through like an
Mm-hmm.
idea that I just like I can't wrap my brain around completely on my
Mm-hmm.
own. And so sometimes expressing that through story and being able to work it out through the like these surrogates or these characters are able to help me do that. And so I I would think that a part of it is like a level of authenticity, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just really like these characters' journeys are all in some degree representative of a journey that I'm trying to take for myself. Um, and so I think people relate to that. And I think I would like to think that it comes through in the writing, and that is why people seem to really latch onto the work, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I try not to point fingers either, you know, like these are all sort of complicated ideas that I'm wrestling with and complicated sort of states of being. And so I try to present maybe an opinion, but also it is not to damn anything that is outside of that. So it's just trying to find some semblance of the truth within each and every one of those problems that we put those characters into, and I think that comes up with conflict that at bare minimum is entertaining
Mm-hmm.
and at best is something that people can really kind of see themselves a part of.
Mm. I think there's now that a thought provoking going on where people can kind of reflect. I think to really enjoy your work, and I've seen several examples of it. I think it's not a one read and done type of affair, and I don't think it should be. I think if you're doing that, you're reading it wrong. I think it's very much a case of read it, reflect, and then come back and read it again, and then maybe reflect some more. Because the challenges, we'll go back to Rise, for example, the challenges that John faces are the challenge we all face in our daily, you know.
Mhm.
I'll put it out there. I'll be super honest. We were scheduled to do this pod last week, and I had an absolute day from hell,
Mhm.
and it impacted my mental health. It impacted how I felt about myself. It impacted, do I want to do pods anymore? The whole thing. And that's an element that we were talking about right at the start. How I feel impacts my performance. Yeah. How I feel impacts, if I've had a really bad, tough day at work, can I sit in front of someone and with a smile on my face and genuinely say, I love this book, it's great, I love your writing? The answer to the question is no, I can't, because I'd be disingenuous, you know? So I get it, you know, we can drape it in a cape or a cowl, but the things that's in Rise, the challenges in Rise, are real life challenges
Mhm.
presented in an entertaining manner, right?
That's the goal. That is
I,
definitely the goal.
maybe I changed my mind. Maybe I should be in PR. Maybe
Probably. Seems like everyone's doing it nowadays.
oh, oh, everyone, is it? Oh, okay. I thought you and I were close, but you've got to be on par about it. I
I
recommend
didn't
going to
say
Leeds
everybody was
Airport
doing
and
it
saying
well.
dirty Leeds. See what happens.
I
All
didn't
right.
I didn't say that everybody was doing it as well as you were.
All right, fair enough. I'll let you off. Stretch goals. Here we go. You've got you get a second triple spread if you hit 6,000. Sorry, 8,000. 10,000, you get a free Rise sticker for all physical backers. And over, what's that? Over S20?
Oh, over $20.
All right, okay, so if you're, okay. 15,000 is to be announced. Backer goals, look at those. I like these. I like some of these are lovely. The unique 48 hours, I suppose they're up.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to show you those because people just get annoyed at me. Although this T-shirt looks very spiffy, I have to say.
Thank you.
I like that. Cool.
We've also got if you scroll down a little bit,
Yeah.
on the actual story page,
On this one.
on the left side, yep, you can get a hand-drawn commission from the series artist, and we've only got, I think, one full body commission left, and a couple of smaller ones remaining as well. So people are going to want to get on that ASAP.
See, I was tempted with the Zatanna, but she's not wearing fishnets. So
you can listen, get a custom one with fishnets.
I shouldn't have to get custom for fishnets with Zatanna. It's like that's the way she draws. That's it.
I don't make the rules.
Yeah, fair enough. Plus, fishnets are hard to draw. Trust me, I've tried several times. It never works well. Same with Spider-Man's mask. It never works well. Cool.
And we've also got one page of original art remaining on the campaign as well.
Which one?
I got to talk to the person who claimed the first slot, but it's going to be one of the first 2 pages.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say it won't be the half-naked one there, I imagine. Sex sells. Excellent. All right, so when we see you at Thought Bubble, I assume that you will have stocks of your back catalogs ready to sell.
Yeah. I'll have all of the Helix Project. I'll have Reflections and Other Little Devils. We're still waiting on the remainder of Minutes to Midnight, but I got really impatient and ended up doing like a limited one-shot edition of one of the stories from inside of that, which is Reflections and Other Little Devils. And we only printed 100, and they are all numbered. Cool. So you can get a super limited printing. It's actually the most limited print run I have ever done in my career. So that's really exciting. And that was kind of to stave off the fact that Minutes to Midnight fell a little bit behind on production. And I really wanted to throw something new out there for the readers.
When we say Minutes to Midnight, there is a reason I think that book, I do have it somewhere. Because I'm sure I downloaded it earlier. I did. Here we go. This is the cover for Minutes to Midnight. It's the A cover. And when we say that it might have fallen behind a little bit behind schedule, I'm going to show you this cover and you can understand why. All right? In a good way. All right? So for all you fans of Vertigo books, for books that make you think and kind of love the kind of esoteric otherworld nature that comes with Sandman, check this cover out. How gorgeous is that cover?
It's pretty good. I gotta say, it's pretty damn good.
It is. It's like, if you're not looking at this cover and thinking, what? Then you are absolutely insane. And I don't diss anybody lightly. This is going to be worth the wait. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I've seen the work that you've done on your other books, and I know the interior art will be up to scratch as well. So, well done.
Thank you very much.
Very well done. Very well done. Just look at the colours. Look at those colours. The fractured glass with the pieces of the stories in them. Oh, man. Very, very excited. Very excited.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's that project was the most ambitious thing I'd gotten to do, and is one of the most fulfilling things I've ever gotten to make, and just kind of stretch myself creatively and play in different spaces with a bunch of talented people. I think that working on Minutes to Midnight leveled my ability up in a big bad way. Just getting to explore all of those different angles, and
cool.
I'm so stoked for people to see that project when it comes out. It's like you said, it's kind of like my love letter to sort of DC Vertigo and that style of comic book storytelling. And hopefully people check it out when it does finally hit the shelves.
Give us a brief synopsis of Maze to Midnight, because I know what it is, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, so you have 4 short stories in there totaling 64 pages for the lot. They're all varying sizes, some of which, like Reflections of the Little Devils, is 22 pages, so it's big enough to be its own one shot. But then you have other stories like The Marvelous Misadventures of the Melancholy Man. It's only 6 pages. But they're all sort of independent stories tied together by this theme of perspective, or a lack thereof. And so the lead story, Reflections, is a grim and moody mystery about a grizzled aging detective as he investigates a string of suicides across a property line linked to a failed eminent domain seizure attempt, and his discoveries throughout reopening this cold case and drug-laden flashbacks end up leading him into a collision course somehow with his ex-wife that puts his long-dead drug-addled marriage into question. And so this kind of spirals into a story, a sharp-edged one at that, about perception and control and addiction. And then you get into like The Marvelous Misadventures of the Melancholy Man, which is like a watercolor and color pencil rendered story. And it's a supernatural coming of age story that is a play on Shakespeare's King Midas and the Golden Touch. It's about an empathic boy who can turn others' woes into gold. And it's a story about finding balance in a life where touch could mean healing someone else at the cost of yourself. And it's really kind of about self-sacrifice and self-deprecation. And then you go into, let's see, would be The Bear Market Businessman, which is a story that takes place centuries in the future in a neon-adorned New York City as it weighs down upon the richest man on the planet. And on the edge of life, he has to figure out how the key to survival is choosing to live. And then finally, we have Time Fleeting War Immortal, which I'm incredibly excited to bring to you guys.
Love that. I've seen pages of that. That absolutely is my cup of tea.
I'm so stoked. It's a Dante Alighieri-esque historical fantasy about 2 nearly immortal soldiers as they reconvene throughout every great battle in human history to settle the score for a conflict that spans from the beginning of time to the end of all life as we know it. And
please tell me the line, "No, Highlander, I am your brother," is in there.
But it's, that story really evolved quite a lot, and it became one that's sort of about the changing landscape of war and conflict, and the way that diversity is often conditioned by the times that we live in. And at the end of the day, the softest hitting theme is that we will never have enough time. And, that all of those stories are wrapped into that one 64-page package.
You say that, right? And I'm like, how can people not be impressed? Just the quality of the ideas, the metaphors that are in place. Oh man, it's just absolutely. I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you, brother.
All over that, like jam on toast. Which is a thing you'll find out in a few days. Right. You'll find out, yeah, man.
Isn't like Marmite a thing?
Oh no, not for me. My father-in-law loves Marmite on toast. Mate, no, thank you. Just do me a favor. Don't come all the way over here and go to Mackie D's for breakfast, for Christ's sakes, right?
Oh, that was not the plan. Listen, yeah. I need I will be in England for like 15 out of like the 20 days that I'm gone, so I need at least 5 full Englishes while I'm out there.
Yeah, definitely. Greg's is your go-to.
Yeah.
Greg's the bakery. Get some sausage rolls.
Sausage rolls, yeah. I heard those were like the big thing. Okay.
Yeah, sausage rolls.
Good to know. And I need a good Cornish pasty.
Well, to be fair, and people are going to hate me for saying this, the only way to get a good Cornish pasty is to go to Cornwall, which is where they make them.
Listen, I've got time. I could take a trip south. You know.
Fair point. Fair point. Trevor, it's been an absolute blast talking to you, sir. Again, you have thoroughly impressed and entertained me. This, I am so glad we got to spend this time. I'm so glad I'm going to get to give you a fist bump later this week.
Dude, I can't even believe it's less than a week away. Like my
Less than a
brain
week.
cannot.
Yeah.
My brain cannot fathom it, man. But it's an absolute privilege to be here. I'm grateful that you're sharing your sandbox with me to get to talk about these things, brother. And I appreciate how accommodating you've been to set this whole thing up. It's always
that goes both ways. That does go both ways.
Dude, anytime. It's and I always look forward to chatting with you and getting to dive into these stories, man. So
cool.
Thank you for the opportunity to do it.
Dude, there is a seat at this pod anytime you want. You just drop me a line and you are always welcome. Always.
Appreciate that.
Guys, that's it for another episode. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows. Don't forget the Old Timers Comic Book Show for the comics of a little time of known as yesteryear. For all you Marvel fans, you can check out the No Price Podcast. Yes, I am going to see the Marvels movie. Yes, I'll probably talk about it on the pod. And for all you DC fans, it's a definitive crusade. And for everybody else in the UK, get yourself down to Thought Bubble this coming Saturday. That is Saturday the 6th, 11th of November. Is it the 11th? It better be the 11th. It looks about right. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, the 11th.
11th.
Get there. 11th and 12th for the Comic Con, where you get to speak to Trevor and a whole host of people who've been on the pod. You get to see them face to face. What more could you want? And
most importantly, back rise on Kickstarter.
Yeah, of course. When we talk about Kickstarter, let's get some banners up. There we go. Head over to Kickstarters. There it is. Rise Comic. Dead simple. All you got to do, if you can't follow the link, type it in. Rise Comic, and it'll take you there. There are a whole host of Pocket Watch Press links. That's your Twitters, your Facebooks, your Instas, and all that sort of stuff. Just head over to that link, and they're all on there as well. So plenty of time and opportunity to follow Trevor, Pocket Watch, and of course the books we've been talking about today. There you go. What more could I say? Trevor, it's been an absolute blast.
Same here, brother. Thank you so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. And as for everyone else, I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. Adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.